My name is Ike Chikwendu, teacher of conscious creation, and I'm excited to bring to you another video in the series that I started last week, how your thoughts manifest into physical reality. Consider this a part 2 of that series, and I hope you watched and enjoyed that part. Let me quickly do a recap of what we talked about in that part. So the first thing that we talked about in that video is that everything begins in the mind. Everything begins with a thought. Everything that we experience physically in this physical dimension begins in the non-physical dimension, which is a thought, right? We differentiated between non-physical reality and physical reality, and we said that physical reality and non-physical reality is what makes all reality. Reality is not just what you can see, hear, taste, smell, and touch, or what you can access via your senses. Reality is both non-physical reality and physical reality. In fact, in the upcoming videos, we're going to explore and actually realize that the bulkier part of reality is the non-physical reality. It's not even the physical reality. Physical reality, science tells us, is virtually zero. 0.00000000001%, which is zero. That is physical reality. Everything that you can see, hear, taste, smell, and touch is actually zero compared to what non-physical reality is. In other words, the bulkier part of all reality is non-physical, what you cannot experience with your senses. So this experience is just an illusion. It's not real as what we call real. So what we talked about last time is that everything begins in the realm of non-physicality before it manifests in the physical realm via the medium of choices that we make and actions that we demonstrate to create that physical experience, plus the emotions, which is kind of like the end product of all of these things. So in other words, everything begins with a thought. So you have to be careful with the kinds of thoughts that you're thinking, especially the repeated ones. So be careful with your thoughts, because without a thought, there won't be a manifestation of physical reality. Physical reality is a reflection of the true reality. Physical reality is a mirror. So I gave you an example that what we're doing in physical reality to force things to change is cleaning the mirror, expecting that the mirror will clean our face for us. If we don't smile, our image in the mirror will not smile back. We have to actually change ourselves so that the physical reflection, which is the mirror of physical reality, will reflect to us the change that is already made inside of us, instead of forcing things to change. The next thing that we talked about, that thinking human beings are responsible for the state of this world today. There wouldn't be airplanes, smartphones, TVs, telephones, all these things, all these gadgets, digital communication, science, technologies, without a person sitting down and thinking about something, right? It makes sense. If everything begins in the mind, that means you and I, are responsible for the way the world is today, good or bad. So all the good things in the world today came from human beings, came from people's minds, including all the bad things. All these wars and bombings and fightings and political problems and conspiracies also came from the mind. Nothing just appears like this. The same way somebody saw a need in the world and started to create something to solve that problem, in the same way somebody sat down and started thinking evil for another person. Somebody sat down and started conspiring something bad for another person. Nobody just does anything. It always begins in the mind, including the confrontation you had with your boss last week, including the fights you had with your spouse last week, including that customer that you fought with. Whatever it is, you sat down and remembered that, oh, enough is enough. I can't take this anymore. I'm going to fight back. You planned it. You chose your words. If I say this one, they will get very, very angry. No, I won't say this one. If I say this one, it will look as if I'm giving them compliments. I have to say this bad one so that they will get angry. You planned everything. It always starts in the mind, and it expands into what is happening in the world today. All these wars, like I said, all these bombings, fightings, political problems, conspiracies. One person, an individual, two individuals, a community, a country, whoever it is, collective consciousness is creating the conspiracies and the problems against other people. These conversations will start behind closed doors, planned sometimes for months before executing it, and all of a sudden you hear these people are fighting, you hear this person has been impeached, you hear all these political problems. It begins behind closed doors first, before the manifestation. That means that you and I are responsible, whether we want this world to be good it's in our hands. Whether we want this world to be destroyed, it's in our hands. We also saw that if I can create the world that I love, if I can create my life and be more constructive with my thoughts and take more actions that are in line with those constructive thoughts, which are constructive behaviors, I will be able to create a beautiful life that I love in my life. If you do the same and someone else does the same and the other person does the same, we will become a light, huge lights that will begin to spread like wildfire. Isn't that how to make the world a better place? If I feel responsible, instead of blaming other people every time I feel responsible, you feel responsible, the other person feels responsible, and we all feel responsible and do our parts and be happy in our lives, then happiness is going to be spreading all around, and that's how to make the world a better place. Doesn't that sound beautiful? So instead of blaming other people, instead of pointing fingers at the other person, this remaining four are pointing back to you as well. Instead of saying this person is doing this person is doing that, and totally forgetting what you are doing and what you're supposed to be doing. This is the essence of this idea. So this is what we talked about in that video. If you haven't watched that video, I'm going to add a link somewhere in this video, maybe in the description, for you to watch it. It will give you more understanding about this one. We also saw that every negative experience in our lives is self-inflicted. And it makes sense, because if every physical reality begins in a thought, that means that that challenge, that difficulty, that problem that we think we're experiencing right now, we must have thought about it without even knowing. It must have crossed our minds, because the principle has to follow. It begins in the mind before it becomes a physical reality. We think about it and then we make a choice. That choice will lead to an action that will create that same experience for us. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we're like, okay, you see that? Some of us, we take it as being powerful. Oh, I just thought about it and I've seen it. You see? I just thought about it and I've seen it. Oh, I have a powerful mind. Yes, you have a powerful mind, but you can use it to think about something positive, something beneficial, and not to hurt yourself with it. Does that make sense? If you haven't read my book, The Creative Power of Belief, you have to get it and read it, because I broke down every bit of this stuff that I talk about, that I share with you every time. I broke down every concept in that book to the best of my ability. You know, when we make videos, we kind of forget certain things, but when you're writing, you're more focused. That's why it takes you a while, maybe 2, 3, 4 years to write one book. So it comes out richer than what you share when you're making a video. So reach out to me and get it. You won't regret it. It's a must read. Now, this leads me to what I want to talk about in this video today. Some of us might ask a question. Does it mean that every time I think a thought, a negative thought, it comes to pass that way? Now, this is a very pivotal question. The best way to answer this question is to do a little experiment. Just do this little experiment with me. Just close your eyes for a few seconds. Don't look at me. Just close your eyes for a few seconds. It will only take a few seconds. And imagine that an elephant crashed into your house right now, where you are, and raised its tusk. Imagine that. Just for a few seconds. Now, open your eyes. Now, look at that spot where you saw the elephant in your imagination. Is there an elephant there? My guess is no. You didn't see anything there, and your windows are not crashed. That means you don't have negative things happen to you just by thinking about it. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's necessarily true. Okay? We think 60 to 70,000 thoughts every single day. This has been proven. So any of those thoughts that you're thinking, because your conscious mind has the ability to jump from one thought to another thought to another thought to another thought, about 60 to 70,000, like that. So it doesn't mean that those thoughts that it's flicking through, because that amounts to about 6 thoughts per second, doesn't mean each and every one of those thoughts has the power to manifest itself instantly. And this is good news, because if every thought just manifests immediately we think about it, due to our tendency to always think negative thoughts, we would have wiped out this planet just in the twinkle of an eye, because that's as fast as how those thoughts happen. But thank goodness that's not the case. But that notwithstanding, should we engage in negative thoughts just because it doesn't happen instantly? Of course, you know the answer is no. You shouldn't engage in negative thoughts for a reason. Number one, habit. Every time you think a thought, or you do anything, let's just step away from thoughts for a second. Every time you do anything once, because you've done it once, you can do it again. And if you do it again, you can also do it again. And anytime you repeat something over and over again, you're heading towards creating a habit. A habit is an unconscious state of being. In other words, you can be doing it as often and often and often, as many times as you can, without even knowing you are doing it. Now, that would be a good thing if it's a good thing you're doing repeatedly that much. But if it's something that is bad, that's where you get bad habits. Imagine when you're doing something bad repeatedly without even knowing you're doing it. You have become a disaster going somewhere to happen. Now, let's step back to thoughts. If you think a negative thought once and engage in it again and again and again and again and again, you're heading to what? A habit. That is what you can call a habitual thought. Or guess another name for a habitual thought. It's the word belief. Belief is just a pattern of thinking, a way of thinking. Can you see why it's important to stay away from negative thoughts? Not be afraid of them, but stay away from them. Because just engaging them and engaging them is going to cause you to create a habit out of it or a belief out of it. And once you have believed in something, something has become a belief, just forget it. It is done. That elephant will crash into your house one of these days. Because under the threshold of your subconscious mind, you will be giving out that thought every time without knowing that you're doing it. You will continue to believe it, that an elephant will come into your house one day or whatever it is. Remember, I told a story in one of my videos about a friend and colleague and client of mine whose keyboard was stolen. He's been experiencing that, and for the mere act of turning back his keyboard and writing his name in a place where they can never find it if they come, that was when he wrote the story for the keyboard to be stolen, because he had to believe that the keyboard would be stolen for him to write his name there because of his past experiences. You see? So when you experience something in your mind, aka thinking about it in your imagination over and over and over and over again, it will become a belief. And when it's a belief, you have mastered that thought. Don't worry about it. It will manifest. It will become a physical reality. That's what we're talking about. So take away from this video, just because you have a thought doesn't mean it's true. But because it doesn't mean it's true, doesn't mean, okay, since there's no elephant, since nothing bad is going to happen to me just by me thinking a thought, I can, engage in these thoughts over and over again. It is very dangerous to do that. Because the more you're doing that, the more you're getting it into your subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind, and we're going to talk about the subconscious mind in these videos, in upcoming ones, but there is something called your subconscious mind, which sits at the back of your head, called your cerebellum. It doesn't reject information. It is always paying attention to everything, the ones you're conscious about and the ones you're not conscious about. It will store it. So the more you keep thinking those thoughts, it's receiving it, and it will store those images that you're thinking, and it will take over for you and begin to release those thoughts. Whenever you're thinking, you're talking. What you're saying is, I need this to happen to me. I need this to happen to me. But now you're not saying it consciously. It will happen. So now that you know this, the same thing can be applied to positive thoughts, because thoughts manifest into physical reality. But the idea about positive thoughts is that they are more fast. They manifest faster than negative thoughts. And I know this can be a little bit contradicting to what some of us think, because it looks as if negative things are happening to so many people more than positive things. The reason for that is because of our environmental challenges and difficulties and collective consciousness and what our beliefs are. We tend to have experienced negative things more than positive things. So because of those experiences, we have beliefs more in the area of negative things than we do in positive things. And that's the reason why it looks like we're always thinking on the area of the negative things. And because that's what we're always thinking, that's what we're putting out. The law of attraction says that you get back what you put out. It's a law. So if we're always believing for negative things, it makes sense that we're always going to be receiving back negative things. What is like unto itself is drawn. That is a law. But it doesn't mean that they can happen faster. Positive thoughts manifest faster than negative thoughts. Because every thought is energy. Remember, we talked about that. Energy is what you cannot experience with your senses. When we talk about non-physical reality, we're actually talking about energy. Particles are things that you can experience with your senses. You can see 1, 2, 3. You can differentiate it. You can measure it. That is why we live in a three-dimensional world. We can measure particles. It's the physical things that can be accessed via our senses. But like I said before, non-physical reality, which is the bulkier part of reality as a whole, is more energetic in nature because there is nothing that you can see, hear, taste, smell, and touch there. In other words, it is energy. This is just quantum physics. Again, this is not my opinion. This is how reality works. This has been proven times without number. This is physics. Now, energy has frequency. So your thoughts is energy because you can't see your thoughts except you wear an EEG or an MEG. If a person's brain is hooked up to an EEG or MEG, we can see waves, we can see the frequency of that person and know what's going on in the person's mind. Not the actual thoughts happening, but how their waves are moving, and we can predict what's going on. That's the work of those machines. That's the only way you can see the thoughts, not as physical things. So thought is energy. Now, energy, you can't have energy without frequency. Energy or consciousness has frequency. In fact, is frequency because you can't separate frequency from energy or consciousness. Energy is consciousness. Now, what is frequency? Frequency is simply the rate at which energy is spinning or moving. Now, if your thought is energy, and energy always has frequency, that means there is a frequency or speed at which your thoughts are moving. So the frequency of positive thoughts are higher than negative thoughts. Positive thoughts are higher or faster frequencies, while negative thoughts are lower or slower frequencies. Does that make sense? Positive thoughts, listen now, positive thoughts manifest faster than negative thoughts. Positive thoughts become physical realities quicker and faster than negative thoughts. This is because they are faster frequencies. The synchronicities and possibilities and opportunities that work with it happen much more faster because they are on a higher and faster frequency than negative thoughts. Pay attention to this because this is very important. Because we've given so much power to negativity more than is necessary. In as much as some people experience more in the negative than in the positive, it doesn't have anything to do with negative thoughts or negative things being powerful as much as it has to do with the consistency of experiencing negative things. Does that make sense? Let me repeat what I said. In as much as we are experiencing negative things most times more than positive things, it doesn't have anything much to do with the power embedded in the negative things themselves or the negative thoughts as much as it does with how often we are experiencing these things. Because remember that what you put out is what you get back. So because we've experienced negative things probably more than we've experienced positive things, the very tendency is there that we have developed more beliefs concerning negative things than we have concerning positive things. And because of the law of attraction, anything that is like unto itself is drawn. We are putting out more beliefs in expecting negative things to happen. Does that make sense? Than we are doing to expect positive things to happen. And that is the reason why, because what we put out is what we get back, we're going to experience negative things more. It's not because negative things are more powerful. As I've just explained, which is again not my opinion, this is what the research of thoughts and frequencies talk about. Positive thoughts have been seen to have higher frequency more than negative thoughts. Therefore, they have so much more ability in becoming physical realities than negative thoughts. So, why do you want to hold on to those negative beliefs? And remember, thoughts, beliefs, they're the same thing. Beliefs is just a habit of thinking. So why do you want to keep holding on to those negative thoughts or negative beliefs or negative perceptions? Why? I hope that this video is going to re-inspire you again and begin to encourage you to drop those negative thoughts. Even if they are habits, and so what? You can change a habit like that if you're serious about it. Even if it's a belief, you can change your beliefs. You can stop thinking negative thoughts and start thinking positive thoughts. Some of these kinds of thoughts that you're supposed to be engaging in alignment with your desire in life. The things that you want, the things that you love, the things that you desire in life. Be it good health, financial progress, financial stability, success in business, success in career, relationships, whatever it is that you love in your life. Those are the thoughts that you're supposed to be engaging more. See yourself healthy, see yourself wealthy, see yourself doing well in your relationships, see yourself doing well in your career. Instead of seeing yourself failing, instead of seeing yourself embarrassed, instead of seeing yourself being laughed at, being scoffed at, instead of seeing yourself losing your job, instead of seeing yourself being put in a bottle, instead of seeing yourself being witch hunted, see yourself above and beyond your expectations. These are thoughts. Think them over and over and over and over again. Let them turn into beliefs. Hand them over to your subconscious mind and see how your life is going to change. You are a creator. Now, what is the frequency of a thought? Again, like I explained before, a frequency refers to the rate at which something spins. Okay, if we say do something frequently, that means you're doing it over and over again. So the frequency, which is the noun of the word frequent, talks about, is a scientific word, by the way. I'm not trying to make it more like an English word, but I'm trying to bring it down in a way that you can understand it. So the frequency is talking about how often that thing is happening. All right, so energy, what you cannot see, what you cannot access with your senses, the frequency at which energy is moving. Energy is already faster than the speed of light. That's what Albert Einstein tells us with his famous E equals mc squared. That speed, the way it is measured is by its frequency. So there are faster frequencies and there are slower frequencies. So imagine a ceiling fan, for an example. When you put on your ceiling fan in the first level, number one, it begins to spin, but it's not fast, it's slow. That first level is always slow. You can even put your hand and stop it, but it's still spinning. You can see the blade at that speed. If you increase it, the speed does what? Increases. Now you begin to see the blade, but it appears that the blades begin to multiply before your eyes. It doesn't really multiply, but it's not advisable to put your hand now. The speed has changed. If you change it to 3, then it starts to spin very fast, and then the blades begin to look like there are 10 of them, and it's just 3 of them. But because of the speed, it almost looks like it's everywhere at the same time. It's spinning very fast. Now, what you're doing when you're flipping from 1 to 2 to 3 is you're changing the frequency of the speed of the fan. Stay with me. If you move it to 4, that's a higher frequency. Now it starts to spin very, very fast. Now, to some people, 5 might be the highest. To some people in your home, if you change it to 5, then now it's really spinning very, very, very fast, that you can't even go near it. Now, at that point, at that speed, it's almost as if the blades disappear, right? True or true? It's almost as if you don't see the blades again because it's too fast. Now your eyes can no longer catch what's going on there, but the blades are still there, but they're spinning so fast that your senses cannot catch it. It's moving out from the realm of physicality into the realm of non-physicality. That's what Einstein said. When anything moves faster than the speed of light, it turns into energy. It's still there. That's what energy does. Now take the fan as your thoughts. When you put on the first level, which is a negative thought, it doesn't spin very fast, but it's still spinning, it's still creating some reality. Move it to the second one, you're moving from another negative thought to a lower negative thought, which is now a faster frequency. It's not as negative as the first one. When you move all the way to the highest frequency, which is the number 5 of the fan, take that as the highest level of thoughts. With the highest frequency, which is the highest level of your positive thoughts. Does that make sense? Now, the physical reality of your thoughts, how your thoughts manifest into physical reality, can be compared to the effect that fan is creating, which is the breeze that you're receiving from the fan. That frequency is creating a reality, physical reality that you can now feel with your senses. That is how your thoughts from a higher frequency or a lower frequency, either way, is manifesting as physical reality. Does that make sense? Your thoughts are creative. This means, and this is very important for you to note, because of the law of physics, every energy or every frequency will manifest into physical reality, or will manifest a physical reality. Because of this law, you are going to see physical manifestations of your positive thoughts. That's it. That's the law. It never fails. If you choose to think a negative thought, which I hope you don't, the same thing will happen, but it will take a longer time for that to happen because it's a slower frequency. But will it happen? Yes, because a frequency or energy will always create physical reality. That is the reason why your negative thoughts are manifesting. They are always manifesting. They will always manifest. It might take a little bit of time for that to happen. But if you're always thinking negative thoughts, that means you have a stronger belief in them. You might not even notice that it's taking a lot of time to happen, but it will happen. But why would you think negative thoughts, especially when you know this truth? Why don't you start thinking positive thoughts now that you know how powerful they are? Okay? Now, lastly, there's a better word we can use to qualify the word frequency, because that sounds very scientific, and I like to break things down so that it's understood. What is the word frequency in physical reality? What word can we use to qualify that? It is a word that you know. It's not even difficult. It's a very common word. It's called emotion. Emotions. That's right. Emotion, or emotions, plural. E stands for energy and motion. Energy in motion. Emotion is the energy plus the frequency, which is motion. Energy in motion. That's what emotion is. So those emotions that you're having, whether it's frustration, which is a negative emotion, frustration, victimization, pain, anger, angst, insecurity, hate, jealousy, and all of that, these emotions are doing you much more harm than good. That is the frequency of the thoughts that created those emotions, and they are creating negative things in your life. Instead, why don't you experience more of love, more of giving, more of generosity, more of joy, more of happiness, more of courage, more of empowerment, more of inspiration, more of relaxation, more of relief, more of release, more of boldness? Why don't you start thinking about the things that you love? Think about those things more, because the frequency of these things are higher, and they can manifest into physical reality quicker. Sometimes it happens in hours, sometimes days or weeks, depending on the complexity of what you're working on. Why don't you do the things you love? It's been proven today scientifically that love is the signature. That's the language of the universe. Love, if you're in love with something, with someone, with your career, with your business, with anything you do, doesn't have to be with the opposite sex, by the way. So if you are in love with whatever it is, you are on a very high frequency. Those thoughts that come out of love, thinking about the things you love to do, the people you love, the things that make you happy, the things that give you joy, these emotions are very powerful. That's what we're going to talk about in the next video. You hear me talk about emotions a lot as part of your personality. Your emotion is part and parcel of that personality. The kind of things that you're feeling is the frequency of that thought, and that's what creates your state of being. Don't worry, we'll talk about that in the next video. So remember, you are a creator. You are creating your life, and you can create a better one for yourself. Even if you don't believe what I'm saying, you still are a creator. Even if you don't believe that you're creating that problem for yourself, you still are a creator, because you have a choice. You always have a choice. You always have a choice. Even if you believe that someone else is the one who put you in this problem or some circumstance, which is in a sense giving your power away to that thing, to that person, to that circumstance, you are still doing it to yourself. Just that you should have used that opportunity, that privilege, to do something better for yourself, which you can. And I hope that this video has inspired you to start using your power of choice, and start using your power of creativity to create something good for yourself. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below how you feel and about what you've learned, and help me share this video so that someone else can also learn something new. This is really, really powerful. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.